We pulled it real fast.
Thank you so much.
That's true.
If we could go ahead and call our meeting to order, please. I'd like to ask everyone to stand for a moment of silence. If we could ask everyone to stand for a moment of silence, then if Ms. Mitchell would lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dan. And I want to thank Chase for going to City Hall and bringing the flags out.
Yes,
So
nice
we
to
can
have
do a
flags.
proper pledge. So thank you, Chase. Andrew? Andrew? Are there extra copies of the agenda?
Yes.
Ah, thank you. Madam Clerk, shall we call the roll?
Mrs. Hamburg? Present. Mr. Hampton?
Here.
Mr. Lesby?
Here.
Mrs. Lesby Mitchell?
Here.
Mrs. Tinglesang? Here. Mr. Showalter?
Here.
Mr. Stone?
Here.
Mrs. Packard?
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Each council member should have a copy of the minutes of our last meeting, if you'd like to look at those for any possible corrections or additions. And if there are none, I entertain a motion that they be approved.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion and a second. Thank you, Todd. And with no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. The minutes are approved. Each council member should have also received a copy of our latest check register. If you could indicate you received that register. Thank you. Thank you. Andrew has been working on the sound system, and we think we've got it tweaked better. But we wanted to encourage everyone to speak up a little bit tonight, just so our folks at home can have a fighting chance, especially you all that are on the wings a little bit. And I tend to talk too softly sometimes, so if we could enunciate, I've been told that we'll do better. Next on our agenda is public comments, and scheduled to speak. We have, thrilled to give, Artie and Ms. Carpenter, Veronica Carpenter. Please come on. Hi. Thank you.
Good evening. We are here tonight to request our street closing, our Main Street closing for our annual Thrill to Give. Last year was our 10th anniversary. It really should have been 11th because of COVID, but it was 10th. And probably one of our most successful. We raised over $730 for the Amen House, and we collect food at the pavilion for the entire month of October. And so we donated about several thousand pounds of food that the community gives. So this is our charity event for the year, and we're very proud of that. We have a lot of people to thank, a lot of people at City Council come down and support us and have been judges. We do our costume contest and all kinds of fun things in entertainment. We're even gonna plan on making it bigger. Ms. Carpenter has all kinds of wonderful ideas that we're gonna try this year. So we hope to have more of the community involved again this year. So our dates are, our requested dates are Saturday, October 22nd. We like to do it the week before they do it in Fayette County. They usually do theirs at the end of the month, so we try not to conflict with anything they have. So Saturday is our first date, and of course our rain date is always Sunday. The next day, October 23rd, streets close at 5. We usually finish up about 8:30, and streets are open usually by 8:45. About, yeah, each time. It just depends how much of a crowd that we have. So, so that's why we're here, and we're here to request the street closures and hopefully the support of the City Council.
It's a good time. It's our motion for approval. Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any
Thank you,
opposed?
guys.
That's approved. Thank you all. Have fun. Next on the list, I don't have a person's name, but Church of Pentecost. Looks like a special event for City Hall parking lot.
Yeah, good evening. We are the Church of Pentecost USA Inc. and we are requesting to have the City Hall Park to have an event. It's a gospel music live show. And the date is August 12th and the 13th. August 12th, Friday and Saturday. The mode is going to be a choir, about 15 to 20 choir member, and they'll be singing gospel. We would have a stage built about 12 to 15 to 20 foot stage. We decorated with the gospel music show on it, and then we'll have the musicians sing. We'll raise speakers and mics for the singers, and we don't intend to close any streets. The event will have about 50 participants from the church. During that time, we intend to pass on flyers, gospel tracts to those that will be around. And for those that would need, would request we will share prayer with them. The intention is to spread the love of God to all humanity, as we have been commissioned to do in Romans 10, verse 13 to 15. For everyone who calls unto the name of the Lord will be saved. How then can they call on the name of the Lord in whom they have believed? And how can they believe in the one whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone to preach? And how can they preach unless they are sent? So the Church of Pentecost.
I'm glad to understand the purpose of your event, but if we could keep our conversation on your event,
Right.
that would be helpful for the council.
So we'll pass the tracts. If anyone needs us to share the gospel, if they are willing, we can share it with them. we would build 1 or 2 sheds to have water around for those that would want to drink, and then also juices. There will be live music, so we intend to put on drums and few musical instruments for that.
What are the hours of the event that you're
The hours
proposing?
will be from, I will start setting up around 2, but the hours will be from 4 through 6.
4 to 6. And this is for 2 days, is that correct?
Yes, please.
And it requires constructing a stage.
Yes.
Have you met with anyone from our Public Works Department or the City
No.
Engineers Department
Yeah.
to discuss? We have the farmer's market that is conducted in that. Have you worked with this group?
I have an application and I have liability insurance.
Is it a Saturday and Sunday or
Friday
Friday?
and Saturday.
Do you take the stage down in the morning for the farmer's market?
Yes, it's built, wood form, so we just move it from the truck and put it on and then after that we repack
Any conflicts? When does the farmer's market end?
2.
What, 2?
2 on Saturday.
And they need to start building up yours again at 2?
it. Yeah, it's already built, so we start bringing it, we have 2 hours if it is
Okay.
to bring it in about, say, 20 minutes, we can set it up.
I understand better. When you said build, I was thinking
Okay, right.
lumber and hammers and nails and constructing us. Thank you for helping me
that. Thank you so
understand.
much.
I have a question for Friday, Mayor. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, will the city parking lot be full?
Yep.
I just thought I would throw that out. How would we would have to sketch a part off like Thursday evening maybe or something, or Friday morning for them to be able to set up?
And where do those people who currently work downtown and work in the Justice Center park
I just wanted to bring that out.
during that work day?
Mhm.
Mayor, we've got 2 or 3 council meetings between now and the proposed event. I don't think it'd be unreasonable to maybe kind of meet with them and discuss exactly what kind of a portion of the parking lot. Because we do close, like for blood drives and things like that, we barricade off portions, but it might work well to just discuss that and get the approval at a later council meeting. I mean, they've explained their concept, so they wouldn't need to necessarily come back.
Would that be a reasonable outcome for you tonight, for us to agree to talk about the specifics of how you will need to use the parking lot? I don't think we have enough information tonight to make that decision. But we'd be glad to sit down with your group, myself, Public Works, and Police Department. And if we can accommodate your request, I'm sure the council would enjoy approving.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Zero.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Next on the list, it's good, we got a lot going on in the community. Mitch Winslet from Crossroads Church, and this is also a courthouse square closure for an event.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. My name is Mitch Winsett, representing Crossroads Church, and here to propose a street closure on Friday, July 30th, or July 29th. This would take place shutting down East Main Street from North Broadway all the way up to Hamilton, in addition to North and West Court Street, so everywhere around the courthouse. We have a proposal for an event to do a big outdoor concert. We actually did this concert last year in the same location at the same time, and it was wildly successful as far as community engagement. We had 1,000 or so people there. We were looking to close the street between 2 p.m. and 11 p.m. That allows us to get set up, and there's a stage that goes up in front of City Hall, as well as vendors to come in. We have food trucks and beer trucks and inflatables for the kids and things like that. And that would all be tearing down at 9 o'clock, so there's a buffer from 9 to 11 to tear all those things down. The music would start downtown from 7 to 9, actually by yours truly. And it's secular music. We're putting up, basically it's an invitation to the community to come out and enjoy our city and enjoy music and food and beer and inflatables and have a good time. And I think that's it.
Sounds pretty good. Any questions for Mitch on this street closure?
I was just making sure everything had been filled out. Yes.
And I'll add too, we did check with the tourism board, and this actually doesn't conflict with any of their concerts that they do. It actually works in tandem with their schedule, so helps out our city as well.
Yeah, good. Is there a motion for approval? Thank you, Rick.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tanya. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? You're approved. Thank you. Okay, we've got a bunch of guests here tonight for some very special reason, and I apologize to all of you. We have to take care of some of our routine business right at the front end of the meeting, so we can actually get into the meeting to do our business. We're now to the point of the meeting for mayor's comments, and I have a number of mayor's comments to make that I'll make later in the meeting. But first, I want to get to what is printed on our agenda under mayor's comments, and that is an executive order appointing Tim Thompson to fire chief. There are just a handful of offices or positions within city government that are so important that they require council approval, even though the mayor does all the hiring and firing for the council, for the city. Some of these jobs are just so essential that they require your approval to put people into these positions. And we're at one of those points tonight. I'm extremely proud of the Georgetown Fire Department. I am proud of the leadership that has gotten us to tonight's point. I'm proud of the positive work that's been done over the last couple of years. And I think we are perfectly poised because of that work to welcome our new chief with formal action by the council tonight. What we will do, so the audience will understand, is first, council will, if they approve this executive order, that's still yet to be seen, then that will make the official position, the position official. Then I will give the oath of office, and then we'll ask Tim who he would like to have pin him with the chief's badge. So we've got a couple of steps here to take, but first.
You need a motion, Mayor?
Do we need to read the executive order, or we need a motion for approval?
Motion.
Thank you.
Second. Everybody's.
Second.
Everybody's second.
Everybody's second.
Everybody's second. All in favor of that motion appointing Tim Thompson fire chief, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Congratulations, chief. Shall we? I really should torture you and make you read every word. Repeat every word after me, but I won't do that. Raise your right hands. I, Tim Thompson.
I, Tim Thompson.
I'm not gonna make you read all. You're good. Just if you'd say I will again.
Yes,
I
sir.
will not torture you that badly. I, Tim Thompson, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and be faithful and true to the Commonwealth of Kentucky, so long as I continue a citizen thereof, and that I will faithfully execute to the best of my ability the office of Fire Chief for the City of Georgetown, according to law. And I do further solemnly swear that since the adoption of the present Constitution, I, being a citizen of this state, have not fought a duel with deadly weapons within the state nor out of it, nor have I sent or accepted a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons, nor have I acted as a second in carrying a challenge, nor aided or assisted any persons thus offending, so help me God. I do. Thank you. Heather, could you help us at this point? Got a special badge.
Hey, Tim, turn around, there you go.
We can practice.
No blood, it doesn't count.
Chief Thompson is supported tonight by former Chief Robert Bruin, who is here with us tonight, and continues to be an advisor to others about fire departments. Brian Sagerson, former chief, serving city, is here to observe. John Ward is on vacation. So he's out of town. But Chief Ward of the County Fire Department, formerly Chief Ward of the Georgetown Fire Department, has texted indicating how proud he is, he pledges to work with you, and looks forward to that relationship being very strong. So the history of our department, the future of our department, congratulations.
Care if I said Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Chiefs. I was sitting over there thinking about, I don't know, almost 18 years ago when I came and sat down and talked to you two gentlemen about doing the fire department. Thank you, Council. I'd like to thank my family. Obviously, there's one person I wish was here, but I think he's looking down at us.
Amen.
I just want the guys to know, when I say guys, I mean men and women of Georgetown Fire Department, that I see the job as chief as to be the person that serves you all, not that you have to serve me. I'm big on servant leadership, and it's always about trying to make sure that my job is to make sure you guys have what you need to do your job properly. And it goes from the newest guy we got to the senior guys. And we just need to take care of each other, continue to grow this department. It's a world-class organization. I'm very proud and humbled to be in this position to lead. But we have a great team, and I'm excited to be part of it.
Rita, thank you for being here. Thank you. And just so you all know, David said he was late to the meeting because he couldn't get through all the fire trucks. Oh, yeah, I had some other mayor's comments.
Will this go into effect, I know it goes on according to this, is it still the August date, or is he taking over?
Takes over immediately.
Okay.
The way they explained it to me, Todd, it's much like when we hire somebody before somebody leaves so they can overlap.
Okay. I knew that's how it was supposed to be done, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah. Tim is the chief. We've executed the pay change and all the above.
It's deserved.
Yeah, good. Just a couple of mayor's comments to update you all on. We swore in another new police officer today, and that was a transfer from, so he's a trained officer. He was a transfer from another department, and we're getting some really outstanding officers in that way. I wanted to remind everybody that a week from today is the 4th of July parade, amazingly enough. 11 o'clock parade and fireworks at dusk. Let's see. Since we're coming up to the end of the month, there are two issues that I wanted to update you that we're working together with the county on, because they both have a July 1 sensitivity date. As of July 1, our drop-off center, recycling center, will no longer be open. But as of July 1st, which is, there'll be a press release that'll come out in the next day or so explaining all this. The voucher system that we've been working on, where every citizen will get 4 vouchers to use during a year, will become effective on that Friday, July 1st. So simultaneous with the closing of our drop-off center, the voucher option will be live, and people will have that. They'll go to the county's website to actually achieve that. Bluegrass Ads helped build the database, and that's going to be ready to go. They'll also, at the Rumpke transfer station, things can still, recycling goods can still be dropped off. So they're going to be those changes effective 7/1 that we've been anticipating.
And is there a fee involved when you take to the station when you don't have your voucher?
Oh, if you take something
But if you
without a
take
voucher,
recycling.
I'm sure. Yeah. Also, I'll let the 4 people doing all the work talk about it, but I know the committee has been hard at work. They've met, they've talked, they've met, they've talked, and I think pretty close to some conclusions, and maybe by the next meeting, but I'm aware a bunch is being done. Anything y'all want to add to that, or is that okay?
It's been a pleasure to meet with. What we did was we met with everyone who had requested money from the city. We met with anyone who requested an amount that was higher than what we were able to give them in the regular budget. And then we met with a few more philanthropies or nonprofits. And we asked everyone the same questions. We've had, I think, 4 meetings, and we've talked to a little over a dozen different entities, and we have a certain amount of money and a certain amount of requests, and they don't quite match, so we've had a lot of discussion, asked a lot of questions, and I think we should have something for you by the next meeting, hopefully.
Sounds good, thank y'all. Just one thing only to draw your attention to as council members. The local Royal Springs chapter of the FOP made a post over the last few days that was rather unfortunate. It pointed to the City Hall project, and then the post indicated that we were reducing the number of first responders to pay for the City Hall project, which is absolutely, completely not true. So I responded as politely as I could, pointing out that the budget's been approved, that the budget keeps every first responder The budget keeps all the benefits with no increases to the employees, and that the budget included a 5% cost of living raise for our employees. I also explained that between the local state tax credits, federal tax credits, the city hall will be funded by tax credits, prior year revenue reserves that already exist, and perhaps some debt. It will have no impact at all on this year's operating budget. That will begin July 1st. So I pointed that out. It didn't get any reactions from the people who expressed anger over the first post. Did not react to my facts. But if you're asked, that's just an unfortunate narrative that's just not exactly correct. Let's see. If you're available this coming Thursday at 12 o'clock, we're going to have a wonderful event at the police department. We're going to unveil Gary Crump's plaque.
Oh.
And you're all invited to be a part of that.
When is that?
Noon Thursday. And then also, just so the committees will remember, we have a police committee meeting this Wednesday at 9 and a finance committee this Wednesday at 10. So.
Is the police committee meetings at 9 Wednesday?
That's,
I thought it was at 10. I think I misread it.
It's not, no, you're right, it was 10.
what's it?
I don't think I have your number.
Arlene's in charge of that. So.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Well, I know we got two committee meetings. One is at 9 and one is at 10. I hope we got them straight.
And Jimmy, do you have a problem with 9?
Pardon?
Do you have a problem if it's 10, but we can?
I don't have any problem.
I don't either, Chief Policy does, and you
Do you
don't.
do you remember which one ours is scheduled for, David?
10.
10?
It is
Okay,
10.
so we are scheduled for 10.
So we'll do our.
Finance is scheduled for 10. If you can do it at 9,
I can.
Good.
I'm happy to.
Yeah,
I'm glad I brought it up.
no problem.
And it's
Uh,
Zoom, it's not in person, right?
It's Zooming. Ours was Zoom.
I
It's,
think it's in.
It was Zooming. Ours was Zooming. For once I read my emails.
I would, the one, it
Ours is
says
in
it's
person. Ours is
Zooming,
in
but I would
person.
love it if it was in person. Can we do that? Is it too late?
To do it in person? No. I don't think, Andrew. Is
It's
it?
Thursday now.
It's Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday. It's cool, Monday, we're good.
The editor's right here.
There you go, you got your notes.
I'm not sure this serves as notice.
We had the police committee meeting at 9 o'clock.
You got 24 hours notice, so we'll have time to get it out early in the morning.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
it's 9 o'clock and it's going to be at City Hall. Okay, excellent.
Good. Thank you. And that's all the mayor's comments. Any questions about any of that?
I'm confused, no, I'm kidding.
I'm still confused. Okay, item 7 under GMWSS. Chase. Let me make the council aware of a conversation Chase and I had today about the way we want to handle some things going forward. And you'll notice we've been, for some time, waiting for GD Construction to get a real clear field to work in, and you can see by the invoice tonight, they're going to work now. They're really doing the work. This is $1 million invoice. And I think we're going to see a whole series of these because we've got them working as hard as they can work. We're not used to approving invoices in that amount as a routine matter, but we're going to have a whole series of these over the next couple of months. And this is fairly routine. We knew that these were coming. What I've asked Chase to do is we'll probably go through these fairly quickly. I mean, Chase can give us a lot of detail if we want it. But we thought that on a quarterly basis, he could give us a more detailed explanation of what invoices we've paid, or as the project hits particular milestones that are noteworthy, he should give us a more detailed explanation. But otherwise, I've encouraged him not to exhaust you with details about these invoices yet. That he's not we're not assuming you don't need information about large invoices. We're just wanting to set the stage for the way we do.
Thank you, Mayor.
Two items of business for your consideration tonight. As the Mayor said, the first is a purchase order to Judy Construction, the amount of $1,066,860.13. This is for work completed in May 1 to June 1. And again, as said, this is the magnitude of invoices you should expect to see for months, on a monthly basis throughout this project. Mayor said I'll bring you more significant updates as you requested, or quarterly, or as we hit a major milestone. But we talked about that, and it was just an effort that I don't want to bog down your meetings, but I also don't want you to think that $1 million invoice I'm not thinking about, and that this is something that is just routine business for me, because it's absolutely not. It's important and it's significant, so I recognize that. So that's our first item of business. Second item of business is a purchase order for pump and seal in the amount of $47,875.72. This is for repair of 3 pumps at wastewater plant 2. This is a bid that the council approved back on May 23rd. This is simply the purchase order that accompanies the bid, and I am working with the city attorney, the CAO, to work on a way that we can be more efficient of your time, that I'm not bringing you a contract one meeting and the same purchase order the next meeting. That's what the guidelines are currently. We're working to make that more efficient so we can stop this 2 times for everything. So take your questions.
Chase, is there anything unusual that you found when you saw this, or is this basically routine?
This is what we should expect based on the amount of work they intend to do each month. And we talked about them, that factored in the last 2 meetings where we've had readings for our client anticipation of number 2. That's what that number is based on, is between $1 million and $1.5 million of work per month.
Mayor, I'll make a motion. I'll make a quick comment if there's a second.
I'll second.
It looks like, I guess there's 5 different people on your team that are reviewing these invoices as well, just to kind of add to what the mayor had just said. That general manager, operations manager, accounting manager, engineer supervisor, and then the originator, Jay Wood.
Well, that's just our purchase order approvals process internally, but for this project, you'll understand you've got a GRW inspector that's on site 24/7. You've got the GRW project manager, then you've got the contractor, and then as well as myself, and I don't sign it until the engineering team has reviewed it. So as far as the actual project invoice, you do have layers of oversight there.
Okay. And then the other thing, if I'm reading this right, it looks like about 10% of the billing, this is with this payment, $9.24 million of the 49.9. So obviously we got quite a bit ahead of us.
Correct.
Okay.
Jason, I know you and your team are doing all kinds of extra safeguards put in place on this to avoid anything for future happening, or?
Are we talking about related to September through today? Correct. The structural redesign has all been independently analyzed and verified by an independent third party, I'll say forensic engineer specialist that comes in and can review the designs. That's the purchase orders you approved to the firm WJE over the past number of months. They have verified every structure that was redesigned.
Okay. And then going forward, there's a lot more safeguards put in place so nothing slips through the cracks.
There will be on future contracts, yes.
Okay. I trust you. I
think that will come with changes to our standard contracts and changes to our insurance requirements.
Right. Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right. We've had a motion and a second. Have we voted? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thanks, Jason. Item 8 on our agenda under Chief Administrative Officer is a resolution approving a new interlocal agreement for the Office of Affordable Housing and Homelessness Prevention. I spoke with Connie earlier today. She was aware, and some of the other council members might be aware, that This issue, this interlocal agreement went before the fiscal court at its last meeting. And it was expected to pass. One of the magistrates was going to attend by Zoom. I think he had connection problems, was not able to sign on. The resulting action by the court was a tie vote, which results in a no action. So on the court's meeting of Friday, July 8th, this will go back before the court. The magistrate that was unable to sign on to the meeting will be present and the matter will pass. I just wanted to assure the council that our
So-
county,
Question on it, why did it have such a struggle?
I think the judge was pretty surprised. There was one magistrate that asked a couple of questions. The judge and Devin made changes to the interlocal agreement to address the questions that the magistrate had. But then the magistrate kind of surprisingly voted no, despite the changes that he had asked for.
Was it the only thing?
So it tied up 3-3.
The only thing that I heard was on the 10-year, that it was asked to be a 10-year, something about 10 years.
Yeah, so our typical interlocal period is 10 years automatically renewing until terminated, and that was, even though 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, it's all the same because the termination language is such that you can terminate at any time. We did change that to 2 years that was one of the provisions we changed, because a couple of magistrates did say, I know that it doesn't matter either way, but we contemplated this as a kind of a pilot program and we're gonna evaluate it. So we did change that, and we clarified, we write our interlocals to provide for growth in the future, and they wanted it very clear that there's one employee. So removed all plural references. So if this office would flourish and in the future grow, we would have to amend the interlocal for that, but that was a request also.
Did they have any, well, actually, I read it, I left my copy at home that I marked up, but I read it and said something about, I saw the 2 years, so that's where the 10 years was. Is there anything to put in there about a caveat that instead of it being an automatic renewal, that it has to come back for review before it's renewed? Could that be a possibility to put language like that in there? And then that way it comes to both bodies again, as it's kind of like we do so much that we say we needed to look at it, like the interlocal agreements all these years, we've needed to look at them, and then we kept putting it off. And it's actually in the language, could we not do that? And then it has to come in front of both bodies in 2 years to review
It has to
and
come
look
in
back.
front of everybody, each body, every year for the budget purpose.
It does, and for the budget, because you're voting on the budget.
That's the practical answer. Anything else is just assurances that don't mean anything.
But our historical,
They're just-
what we have done with it, whether that's accurate or not, and it is, that we, first of all, it has to go in front of the fiscal court on the 31st of March, and then we don't start to do the budget really until May. And we've always had that kind of time period has been awkward for us, because we really should be looking at it in January to get it ready for it, make sure we're okay with it, they're okay with it, or February. And we just don't do it. We just let it go, and then it gets passed through the budget, and there we are again. And, I mean, we had issues with that in the past, of having to look at the interlocal agreements, and then it became very cumbersome to take a look at them all. So, I mean, I think you should be in automatically, you should come back to the council, to both bodies at the end of that, and reevaluate the interlocal agreement. The other thing I had a problem with in it is it did talk a lot about, or reference us buying property. At the city, we'd be buying
Language
property.
that's required under the statute, you just have to clarify if assets are obtained, what happens with the assets upon termination. So that's canned language, and that was a question that was brought up by one of the magistrates as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well,
I hate to ask this question, I feel like I need to. I don't want to wish anybody luck. What happens if the court doesn't approve the interlocal? Will we ultimately hack on our own?
Then it evaporates, it goes away. What was expected to be a 5-2 vote, one magistrate couldn't be there, and one magistrate asked questions and got the changes he wanted, and never said anything else and voted no. I don't know how to help that person. This is good policy. It's gonna be good for Georgetown. It's gonna be good for Scott County. Court's gonna pass it. If they don't, then we've lost an opportunity. That's all it is.
It doesn't affect, if they don't pass it, then it's contingent, what we're passing is contingent on sharing that.
We're approving one half of an interlocal agreement. If there's not another half, we don't have anything. It just, it dies. If the court doesn't approve it, it's dead.
Well, it is something that came up over and over and over again when we asked how to spend ARPA money. When we looked at the surveys, affordable housing, it was everywhere. And it's a way to address that.
Well, you know, we've talked about it, but at this point, we're putting action behind what we've talked about because it's, you know, you don't know till you try it. It's a pilot program, basically. And the other thing too is that, you know, Tim resigned, so that was another magistrate that wasn't there. I'm not gonna put words in his mouth, but I'm pretty sure he's passionate about people having a place to live. So, you're right, if it doesn't pass Friday, then that's it.
But
I believe
that's
it will.
July 8th.
I'd like to see the interlocal written as it is a pilot program instead of it written seemingly as concrete, now we're locked into it and we'll continue on to it. And I would also like to have seen the job description of what was going to be entailed through the job description. We talked about it briefly, but I would have liked to have seen that too. I'd like to have seen it very cohesive instead of part here, part here, part here, but.
I can share the job description. It's been posted for a couple weeks. The period closes July 15th. Once again, assuming that the interlocal would pass. So I'd be glad to share that. A job description, it's not, I mean, we don't make a practice of getting that in the weeds in an interlocal agreement. But I will say, and this is the case with all of our interlocals, the only action required to terminate an interlocal is 30 days notice to the other party. So the council has and has always had with any interlocal agreement the authority to simply written notice and 30 days later your financial obligation is off the table. So that's something that the council can keep in mind, and part of the job description and part of our intention with the position is that there will be quarterly reporting, things quarterly, might be every 6 months, but there's quarterly reporting to both funding bodies. So, and I know that was the intention starting with other interlocals, but I know that that both bodies are very passionate about that, especially starting out with this office. So
There was a job description prior to the personnel ordinance coming to the council.
yeah, and I'll be glad to circulate that.
Okay.
You need a motion, Mayor?
I need a motion, please.
There's one, no second.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, roll.
It's just a resolution.
No, don't have to.
Okay, sorry.
It's all right.
Mrs. Hambrick,
Enthusiastic, yes.
Mr. Hampton,
Yes.
Mr. Lesby,
Yes.
Mrs. Lesby Mitchell,
Yes.
Mrs. Tingle Sames,
A concern, no.
Mr. Showalter,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett.
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. Item 9 on our agenda, under finance, item A is second reading of our final budget amendment ordinance of the prior fiscal year.
Year 22, which ends very soon.
Yeah. So, if there are no questions for Tracy, since we already had first reading, we'll go ahead with second reading.
An ordinance amending the annual budget ordinance for fiscal year July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2023 summary, general fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $1,072,452. General government expenses are increased by $31,235. Utilities are increased by $17,005. Police expenses are increased by $68,016. Fire expenses are increased by $74,404. Public works expenses are increased by $2,500. Interlocal expenses are increased by $1,000. Capital expenses are increased by $80,000. Transfers and other funds are increased by $742,796. Intergovernmental revenue is increased by $2,800. Dispatch expenses are increased by $80,600. Grant fund, federal grant revenue is increased by $6,000. Police expenses are increased by $6,000. ARPA fund, fire expenses are increased by $36,500. Interlocal expenses are increased by $750,000. Capital expenses are decreased by $637,985. Environmental services fund, surplus property revenue is increased by $763,300. Sanitation expenses are increased by $230,000. Cemetery fund, intergovernmental revenue is increased by $5,000. Transfers from other funds are increased by $5,000. Cemetery expenses are increased by $10,000. Medical self-insurance fund, new fund, intergovernmental revenues are increased by $471,600. Other revenues are increased by $3,260,510. Medical related expenses are increased by $3,591,241. Capital projects fund, transfers from other funds are increased by $737,797. Capital expenses are increased by $737,797. All ordinances or parts of this ordinance in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. This ordinance shall take place after its passage and publication according to law. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Public introduced and read the first time, June 15, 2022. Only read the second time, June 27, 2022.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion. Oh, go ahead.
You're fine. I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. There are no questions. We'll call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Sherwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Kingston?
Yes.
Mrs. Leslie Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Leslie?
Yes.
Mr. Hampton?
Yes.
Mrs. Hamburg?
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. Item B is a municipal order approving the assignment of fund balance, good faith, to the council, where we identify projects that we have not spent the funding. We still have the need. So we're going to earmark that carryover as if it's gone. It's not available for us to use anymore. So that's the purpose of this. Things we have not yet spent. There's a large item on there, the technology that we want to preserve. We'll get that, we'll absolutely get that spent. But this is just that commitment to the council.
And yeah, the vast majority of these purchase orders have already been done, everything's already been ordered, it just won't be here or be finished by 2/30. So we just gotta make sure we preserve those funds to pay for those items, because they weren't in next year's budget.
It's carrying over this year's money into next year's.
The bottom line on fund balance, there's no effect, it's just shifting the expenses from this year's budget to next year's.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you.
Second.
And second's been made. There are no questions. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you.
Mayor, can I ask a quick follow-up question on this? I know there are a lot of new accounting practices, I guess, and auditing requests. So is this, I don't recall doing this in years past. Is this something?
We've done it for at least probably the last 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
And it is kind of an auditing thing. They like to see when we show our fund balance, we show what's unrestricted.
Okay.
But because these are open purchases, things we haven't received, or commitments as of June 30, 2022.
So
So
this
we
will be
show
a-
that as kind of a assigned, set aside part of fund balance for these purchases, for these purchases.
One-time thing? right
Yes, it's
before
one
the
time
end
end of the year, so we can state fund balance correctly during the audit.
Okay.
So we never put ourselves in a position of potentially spending out fund balance and having commitments that you've already made. This prevents that from happening.
So, yeah, we've done it the last at least 3 to 4 years once.
Okay.
And I know the next one's fire department, but I'll stay up here as well. Any
All
questions
right.
on?
Item 10 on the
Why?
fire department municipal order approving ladder
I'll
truck.
make a motion for approval, Mayor. for that.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. This is Stacy being very, very cautious with the council. Our new bid limits that you've approved.
Not mine.
Our new bid limits that you've approved for current and future purchases is now $30,000. This repair is like $28,000, so it's below what our current bid amount is. But when we started the repairs, our limit was 10. So Stacy just being abundantly careful and bringing you all the decision because we started it back when we had lower bid limits.
That's always good to do.
Yeah, and this is,
Covered with the auditor's stuff.
and this is a significant item, you know, trying to get the ladder truck back in operation and
Yes.
having it right. And at this expense, it seems like a lot of money, but compared to the cost of
New
buying a
one.
new one, this is a great deal.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can get a few more years out of it, right?
Hopefully.
Do we have a motion for approval?
Got a motion to
Do you
second,
want a
David
second?
and I.
We hadn't had a vote.
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Good, that's done. Thank you, Stacy. Under city engineer, item 11, the municipal order approving street dedication. And Eddie tells me this is pretty routine.
Yep.
Straightforward.
The only thing I'd like to point out is it dates back to 2001 when they started the project a long time ago. And planning and zoning has changed their policies and rules to make it a 3-year window between the time it goes to plat and when it needs to be street dedicated to the city. So I think the housing dip in 2008 probably is the reason. But other than that, it's very routine.
Going forward, it's gonna be 3 years that they have to have it
Yeah,
done?
that's the requirement the planning zone puts on
The developer?
The developer, yes.
I'll make a motion, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Any questions?
How does that 3-year impact this, though? What were you saying? I mean, this is.
Oh, well, this predates the new policy.
Because it's 2001?
Yeah, it goes back 2001, which is, it jumped out at me, I thought I'd bring it to y'all's attention.
Yeah.
Hopefully that 3-year thing, David, if we observe it correctly, we shouldn't have these.
Right.
Right. They want to get it dedicated within a 3-year window.
But there are some requirements that the neighborhood has to be built out to a certain level. Is that not right
Yes,
as
streets
well?
have to be finished, sidewalks,
Yeah.
gutter, everything has to be.
Yeah.
There were completion requirements before.
Right.
The number of houses built, so
Right.
you didn't break up finished pavement.
Are there those still requirements, or do you know?
Yes, yeah, they just, the only thing that they added is the 3-year.
So what if the percentage isn't at the level? Do you know how that comes into play? I mean, if the economy slows down, housing slows down, which is perhaps.
That's a good question. I'll have to ask planning zone how they handle
Okay.
that.
That was the real debate at the time.
Yes.
If it's supposed to be built out, but if it's
Right.
not built out, you can't
Right.
make it built out.
Right.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Eddie. Item 12 on our agenda, under Human Resources, is first reading of a personnel ordinance reassigning sanitation employees to the Public Works Department with our Public Works Committee as the sponsors. We had agreed to finish the budget process and then alter the personnel ordinance to change those employees from sanitation workers to Public Works employees. So this completes, I think it completes the promise that the council made.
An ordinance amending section 2-101 Code of Ordinances to eliminate sanitation and recycling department's positions and add a position of the eliminated positions for Public Works Department. Summary: 1, amend section 2-11C of the Code of Ordinances to delete all sanitation and recycling positions and add 2 positions of crew leader, 6 positions of maintenance worker, and 1 position of mechanic to the Public Works Department. 2, provides for repeal inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Fourth Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 404, or at www.georgetown.ky.gov. Introduced in public record first time June 27, 2020.
Thank you. That'll be first reading, and we'll expect second reading in our next reading. Under 13, the Police Department, We have second reading of the public nuisance ordinance. Sponsors, Mr. Hampton, Mr. Stone.
An ordinance adding a new article to Georgetown Code of Ordinances, Chapter 26 regarding public nuisance. Summary 1. Defines public nuisance for purpose of Chapter 26, Article 3, and prohibits the property owner from allowing his, her, or its property to be used as the site for a public nuisance. 2. Provides for abatement procedures, including the requirement that the owner be given notice of the public nuisance, implications of failure to abate the nuisance, process for citation issuance, and order to close and vacate. Appellate rights in the city's possession of a lien for fines, abatement costs, and reasonable administrative fees. 3. Establishes fines and remedies for failure to comply. Prohibits destruction of posted notices, requires obedience of orders to close and vacate, and clarifies that in case of multiple unit dwellings, an order to close and vacate is limited to the units on which the public nuisance has occurred. 4. Lists offenses to a violation of the article and provides that the owner has the burden of asserting such defense. 5. Provides for repeal of existing ordinances, severability of provisions, and effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read for the first time June 13th, 2022. Publicly read the second time June 27th, 2022.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
Thanks, Todd. And thank you, Greg. If there are no questions, shall we call the roll?
Mrs. Hambrick.
Yes.
Mrs. Tina Sames.
Yes.
Mr. Hampton.
Yes.
Mr. Showalter.
Yes.
Mr. Lesby.
Yes.
Mr. Stone.
Yes.
Mrs. Lesby Mitchell.
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett.
Yes.
Thank you. We expect that to be a real valuable tool in law enforcement. Item B, first reading of an amendment to the alarm system code provisions. Sponsors Ms. Mitchell and Mr. Showalter. This one's been a while coming, but we've talked before about the outrageous number of false alarms that we have and the waste of manpower and our need to administratively make changes in this process. So Devin's been working on it for some time, and
A lot of good feedback from dispatch, police and fire, so thank you to those folks.
It's been needed for about 20-some years now.
Shelley?
An ordinance amending Georgetown Code of Ordinances, Chapter 12, Article 3, regarding the regulation of alarm systems in the city. Summary. 1. Amend Section 1247 to update outdated definitions, add necessary definitions, delete obsolete or unnecessary definitions. 2. Amend Sections 12 through 48 and 1249 to provide more succinct and modernized responsibilities for alarm businesses and alarm users. 3. Delete Section 12-50 through 12-53 in their entirety, eliminating the specific provisions regarding equipment and technical standards, the equipment and process for obtaining an alarm user permit, the corrective action taken for false alarms under the permit requirement, and the police consolidated alarm system requirement. 4. Creates a new section of Chapter 12, Article 3 to establish the response to false alarms, penalties associated therewith, payment terms, and appeals. 5. Amend Section 1254 to provide for penalties and enforcement of violations of the article for which penalty has not yet been assigned. 6. Provides for repeal of inconsistent laws, severability of provisions, and effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read for the first time June 27, 2022.
Thank you. And Devin, this approach just takes a radically different approach to the way we were doing this before. Would you frame that for us?
Yeah, so we went round and round on the permit part of this and the administrative burden associated with that. And I think the permit part was part of the reason that we never really used this ordinance to our advantage. So looking at how other jurisdictions do it, it seems like those that require a permit probably approach it how we did, and they just deal with it instead of tracking all those permits and taking that step. So instead of tracking through permits, we've established a new standard for false alarms you get, I think it's 3 kind of like gimmies, because everybody will have those issues here and there, but issues we're running into are a handful of repeat offenders that they're responding to multiple times a week and pulling multiple officers off the street at night. So approached it that way, approached penalties for false alarms in an escalating fashion. We've developed a system where there'll be an alarm coordinator. We'll develop a template, so those notices will go out, so folks will be on notice that they need to schedule maintenance for their equipment, because it's typically a maintenance issue. So they've been given notice, and of course, an opportunity to appeal if they don't believe that they meet the standard for a false alarm. So I think it's a lot simpler, I think it's a lot more manageable, and I think provides a good way for us to recover some of our costs for policing and in those cases.
Gets rid of a bunch of the administrative burden that wasn't doing anything for us, other than creating a burden.
Right. And we weren't doing it because it was too much of it's been on the books since like 1992 or something, and we've never issued a permit, so. Seemed like a good time to just take it out.
Okay,
Can I ask a quick question? So how will it work? How will we track who's hit the 4th?
So they are, GPD specifically, most of these are police issues, they're not usually fire alarms and things like that. But I worked with Sergeant Duke a lot, and she had, I don't know how it is through your software, but she had essentially easily pulled spreadsheet of location and number of false alarms, dates of false alarms. So the alarm coordinator who the chief will appoint will kind of track that and have that matrix, but the big issues are commercial establishments, but they'll track that, so they'll know, okay, they've had X, it's time for their second notice, or things like that. So the functionality of that, like I've started on a template letter that would be, easily generated, plug in the address, but I'll work with that person to determine the easiest way to do that.
Okay, so it's easily tracked now, as opposed to, would you say 92? Is that when we passed, when did the ordinance first?
I think it's been in place since 92, but they've always had that data. 2 or 3 years ago, Sergeant Duke approached me about the ordinance and some of the shortfalls and how we could improve it, and she had that data readily available. So she and others at GPD reviewed the ordinance and the setup and agreed that it was very manageable and much more realistic.
At least from my perspective, I feel like having 3 free passes a year, and it resets after each year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they get 3 this year, 3 next year. I mean, that seems very reasonable. You can't get a service person to show up at your house for $75. I think that's what you're proposing, right? For the first.
The first one past that.
Yeah.
I think it's like the 4th offense.
And then it
is
goes to
75.
100, and then, so to me, that seems very reasonable. I mean, maybe even it should be a little bit more. I don't know, but.
We'll see how this goes, and
Okay.
we'll track that data and see if it's effective for covering our costs, and if
Since
not,
we,
come back.
since we've got so many repeat offenders, that's what bothers you.
Yeah.
What we'd like to do is change behavior. We don't want to collect that much
Right.
money. We want
Right,
to
right.
stop sending us
Yeah.
on false calls.
Right. So just to be clear, though, do we get these calls related to the fire suppression system? Because sometimes, like if there's a lost signal on the phone line, there's a company that monitors those lines, and they'll call out. I guess the police department doesn't get those calls in. Property managers do.
You say 1% of the time, 10, it's a fire.
Yeah, I mean, most of the, yeah.
But
most
maybe
of the calls
alarm.
are- Yeah, most of the times that when we go out, it's, Georgetown College, hotels, those types of things, typically they're false alarms. Either that or it's something minor, like somebody being towed or something like that. But
Okay.
the biggest issue is we have some hotels that are the repeat offenders. They're not maintaining their stuff, so these are the places you're constantly having to go back to. So
Right.
I think it'd be very beneficial to,
Yeah.
like the mayor said, change behaviors and get people just to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
Maintain their equipment in some cases.
Now, Anderson Hall is a notorious nightmare. How will that affect you all? Will you all be calling the police in for those, or will you all do those investigations and will you all track those?
I think it might be good for Chief and myself, maybe sit down with campus safety and just kind of go over game plan with those specifically.
Because Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they're notorious for just somebody running out the door, grabbing the fire alarm and running, so.
And they have
I know,
gotten better,
I
you
respond
know, and
to
I
that.
think we kind of put a little pressure on them, and I think they did upgrade some when you were there. And, so, yeah.
Yeah, they're primarily police calls, so it would be more of a fire, other agencies would need to vet that information through the.
Because they held kids out in Anderson Hall one night, well, they pointed a finger, and when it got cold enough, they did, so.
We have businesses that have like 15 a month, 15 a month.
Wow.
And those employees, and they get tired, and they refuse to come out. And so the police department still responds 15 times, but they're so tired of their doggone alarm going off that they don't even send an employee out. But we send the police. That's what we want to try to correct.
Right.
And are these businesses that have the alarm system, it's an automatic, rings automatically into the police department to be notified?
No, it goes through their service provider, and their service provider calls us.
Okay, gotcha.
I remember being shocked when you presented the information before. I mean, do you remember the percentage that were false alarms?
Yeah,
Wasn't it in the 90s?
Oh, it was like, one year it was like 97% of the calls were from false alarms, yeah.
It's
Time to do something.
Upper 90s.
Past time.
Okay, good progress, thank you. Item C is another pretty exciting opportunity, a resolution approving an application for a Justice Assistance Grant, JAG funding. Police Department, Chief, I can let you tell your own story, but continuing to look for.
Actually, my JAG officers are on the other side of the wall there.
Opportunities for us to perhaps extend manpower.
Yes. So we were presented recently with an opportunity to apply for a grant through JAG. There's 4 areas, there's 4 funding areas, 2 of which we would like to hit with what our proposal is. So those 2 funding areas are, number 1, to provide meaningful addiction treatment and recovery services to help inmates and juvenile offenders overcome addiction and stronger substance abuse treatment and prevention programs to combat drug addiction within Kentucky communities. And the second one is aggressively pursuing and implementing smart on crime reforms to reduce prison and jail populations and decrease recidivism while preserving public safety. So our proposal is implementing what we would call a community mental health support team. And what that team would do is they would work with our drug court in both districts and circuit courts, work with our post-overdose response team, our Operation Hope or Angel program, and our relatively newly formed Mental Health Coalition. So this just provides a focus on those in our community that are struggling with mental health and with substance use disorder. So we'd be able to provide resources and be able to provide full-time manpower to this instead of the ancillary support that we're currently able to provide, which would just sustain this, basically sustain it and allow us to dedicate full-time support to it. So I'll open the floor to any questions that you all may have for myself, and Lieutenant Lair, Sergeant DeSoto, Deb and Stacy have all been a great support. That's pretty much all we've done for the last, or at least some of us all have done for the past week, and they've been a great support today in helping us get the finishing touches put on this so that we can submit it hopefully tomorrow.
You don't have statistics about how many homeless in our community is based on mental illness and drugs, do you?
I don't have those numbers in front of me.
I'm sure it's a lot.
Yeah.
I see it every day, walking the streets, so I'm sure it's a lot.
Yeah. Todd made a motion for
I'll
approval.
second, Mayor.
And Tony with the second. This application actually seeks 2 employees. We're hopeful to get 2, but our experience has been, this is the same funding network that has helped us with our Angel program. So we're making really good progress and getting traction with these funding sources for a whole new set of services to help our citizens through law enforcement. So really pleased with the application.
Much needed.
Do you know when you will hear back? Do you have any idea?
So the application is due by 6 o'clock on the 30th.
Mhm.
And then I want to say that we hope to hear sometime either late summer or early fall.
Okay.
And I believe October 1st would be the start date.
Okay.
So,
We'll have a little investment into this if we get funded. I think the grant covers maybe 80% of the salary, and there may be a few extra expenses, but clearly it's an opportunity for us to offer something that we know is necessary. If there are no other questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. That completes the printed part of our agenda. Willow, can I come to you first tonight?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Good meeting. I noticed when I was going to Kroger that the Lazy River is operating. Could you give us an update? I thought it was like over for the summer and suddenly people are having fun.
Suddenly, I think the best case scenario occurred as they went to make a repair and found a leak that was substantial and presented itself in such a way that it could have been an accident, a leak caused by something underground. Fixed that leak, held our breath, filled the system, and it worked.
So do we anticipate that the size of those pipes in the off-season will need to be corrected anyway?
I think we got, I know we got very fortunate that we could have this back for our citizens this summer. And I think we'll now do what we have to do to make sure we can keep it that way.
Okay. I know there's a lot of happy people out there.
That was a pleasant surprise.
Very pleasant, very pleasant. Do we know when the fire committee is going to start meeting again?
I'll send something out to you all this week.
Okay.
I'll send an email out, we can work some dates out, just see what would be best for you guys.
Okay. That's great, since we got.
It'll be soon, I'd like to do it soon.
Okay, because we got summer schedules to work around things. I appreciate the increase in council safety. I applaud that, and I'm thankful for it. I know that it's a concern in many categories. It's been an exciting thing to be on the ARPA committee, and we're excited to present the results of what we've worked hard to come up with, and I know there'll be a lot of philanthropies that are going to be thrilled with this, and so I appreciate the Finance Committee and Mayor and others who put this money aside for these kinds of things. I appreciate that. Do we still, did I read that the completion for the West Main Street project is mid-July? Are we still on?
We're not still on track.
Okay.
Some utility relocation. You may have noticed a very large utility pole right in the middle of our wall.
Yeah, and that as well.
And it turns out that particular utility pole feeds the water treatment plant. So it's rather important to us. So we've had to relocate 3 poles. We're probably looking now at late August, early September.
Okay.
We will have it finished during this season, but it's going to be a little later than what we thought. We're also going to be, we were talking today, Willow, about the ways that we'll try and stage the demolition of the Covington house. You can't do it from Royal Spring Avenue. You've actually got to go down beside the jail and reach over the stream to demo the house. And that today is the staging area for our West Main Street project.
Yeah.
So we're thinking we may have to get the West Main Street project cleared out a little further before we can use that appropriately as a staging area. And then we want to be, Andrew and I, we talked earlier, we want to make sure that when we recontour those banks, they match and they're pleasing, and we don't look like we've left a gouged side on a hillside, a gouged hole on the hillside.
We'll have to work really hard to stabilize the earth.
Okay.
Because it is very steep and sheer limestone.
Demo contractor has been on site and has looked closely at that demolition. Convinced we can do it. Certain steps we'll have to take, but he will have to do it from the other side of the creek.
That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, just to echo Will's,
comments on the committee. It's been great to work with Tammy and Todd and really on that. And I think we've done a really, really good job, and I think there will be a lot of organizations that are happy when we announce our decisions on that and the council's decisions on it. It really was enlightening to me to work on that committee, and I really appreciate you naming me to that, and it's opened my eyes to a lot of different things to see. So, also on the West Main project, I've had a couple of comments on when you're coming off Water Street or coming down Main Street going out of town, I guess the barriers, they're sitting way out.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to make a turn off of Water, or right turn off Water Street. You have to go out into the oncoming traffic, so you don't take the side of your car out.
I'll see if we can get those adjusted.
Okay.
Talk to our contractors.
Yeah, I've had a few comments on that, so.
Are you talking about like pulling out, like
If you were
trying to take a ride onto the
Yes.
4th? Yeah.
If you were down by the jail.
Yeah.
It is tight. It's very tight.
Yeah. Good point.
That's it.
Okay.
I'm fine tonight, Mayor.
Good.
Mayor, just I want to thank Chase again for accommodating us here with our meetings, but not only that, with all he's having to deal with the sewer treatment plant. I know it's a lot, and we've said it before, but we appreciate what you're doing. Secondly, Arlene signed me up for that. The Kentucky League of Cities had a economic, what was it called? Not economic development, but it was talking about the economy of Kentucky and how important economic development was to communities. It was at the Marriott, and it was one of those big, huge rooms like you'd have a chamber event in, and I'm telling you, it was packed with people from all across the state that were there to try to get ideas and insight on how to compete with other communities, not just other communities, but with other states. And it was interesting, and it emphasized to me how blessed we were, obviously, to have Toyota and all the wonderful businesses that we do have, but also to be on the interstate, I-75. Our location is premium. Talked about how important the school systems were. Talked about police and fire, obviously, all the services, how important those things are. Beautification, I know you all hear me talk about that a lot, but it's no joke. That is an important thing. These executives that come in, they look at communities, and those are things that they're paying attention to. And this past Friday, we drove down to Nashville, and on our way to Nashville, I'm always paying attention to the scenery. As soon as we got into Bowling Green is clearing out the fence right-of-ways. They're taking out the old right-of-ways, clearing out all the brush, and they're putting in 4-rail horse plank fence for miles. I couldn't believe it, but it was beautiful. I'll tell you that, it was beautiful. I don't know if they have a tourism tax or a restaurant tax, or I'm sure they have a tourism tax, but
Bowling Green's got so much going on.
yeah. So anyway, it was good. It was good to attend that, and I would encourage. I don't know when they're going to have another economic development meeting, but that was a good thing to attend. And
sounds like good content.
Good content for sure. So anyway, thanks for allowing me to attend that.
All right. Anything else?
That's it.
Fine.
I'm fine, Mayor, thank you.
Good. Todd?
Nothing, sir.
Tammy?
I just want to mention quickly our rain barrel program. There was an article in the paper this week. Thank you, Mike, for that. And citizens can buy them at a reduced cost. It's around $70 to buy those rain barrels. And then when they get them installed and they show a picture, then they get half of that back. So it's a very cheap way for citizens of Georgetown to do a little savings on their water bill and to mitigate some storm water. And if anybody needs to know how to get those, you just need to talk to Eddie. So.
We're delivering 3 tomorrow.
Excellent.
After you sent that over, that was good.
Good, thank you.
We have about 40, I think, and or maybe 35.
I'll count them.
Yeah.
Say exactly how many.
And we did say that, we bought them last year, and we did say that they're first come, first served, and then after we sell them all, then we will see if we want to do it again.
Sounds good. Mark?
Good.
You're
Mayor,
good.
could I say one other comment?
Certainly.
I went to the Juneteenth celebration, and that was the first for our community, and it was wonderful. It was well-attended, the food was good, the museum set up displays inside the Ed Davis Center. They had musicians from Georgetown College, professor there. The basketball tournaments looked fun. It was a wonderful thing for our community, and I'm glad that we initiated that. So I just wanted to say it was well done and well received.
It was indeed. Thank you very much for mentioning that. Good. Is there anything else to come before the council?